On the 16th of October 1975, 5 Australian-based journalists were murdered in the East Timor town of Balibo by Indonesian special forces. They're etched in Australia's consciousness as the Balibo Five.
Given to him by his family.
The group was 7 News reporter Greg Shackleton, cameraman Gary Cunningham, and sound recordist Tony Stewart, and for 9 News, reporter Malcolm Rennie and cameraman Brian Peters. These journalists had travelled to the town of Balibo, right near the border on the East Timor side with Indonesia. And they were there to cover the impending Indonesian invasion, and that's what they got. Indonesian troops swept through the town of Balibo and murdered the 5 journalists. The Indonesian government has always maintained that the journalists were killed by accident in crossfire, and some of the circumstances surrounding their killings are still unclear. But there is a mountain of evidence to prove that what happened to the journalists was no accident, that this was a deliberate act of murder, not in the heat of battle. These were journalists there doing their job, trying to inform the world about what was happening in this tiny country when so many governments had turned a blind eye.
That's all they want, for the United Nations to care about what is happening here. The emotion here last night was so strong that we, all 3 of us, felt we should be able to reach out into the warm night air and touch it.
We spoke to a man called Luis Pereira. He's 75 and he talked to us from his front porch in his home in Dili in the capital of Timor-Leste. Luis was 25 at the time and he was forced by Indonesian troops to carry their mortars, their bullets, their ammunitions during their incursion. When Luis got to Balibo, there was a fire burning in a building called the Chinese shop. Luis said it burnt for a week. Luis told us he saw the body parts of humans amongst the burning wood. Luis was forced to collect these body parts. He was then told to carry them out the back and burn them again. As Luis was telling us this, he could barely control his emotions. He expressed that he wanted to honour these journalists, that he sees them as heroes and that what happened to them was not what they deserved. A 2007 coronial inquest found that these journalists were shot and stabbed deliberately by Indonesian special forces to prevent them from broadcasting what they saw. So the inquest report was passed to the Attorney General, who passed it to the AFP, and the AFP launched a war crimes investigation. But in 2014, the AFP announced that they were closing the case due to insufficient evidence and jurisdictional barriers. So no one has been held accountable for these journalists' deaths to date.